So what we're going to cover today is how to solve quadratic equations. So these are equations that are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And our goal is to find x1 and x2. So this is going to be two numbers that when you plug it back in to the original formula, the left side is going to be equal to 0. And so the way we're going to solve this is using the quadratic formula. And the way this formula works, or how it's defined, is given any quadratic of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, you can solve for the two values of x using the following formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this here is going to be our handy dandy note card that we'll want to make and continue to reference until we have the quadratic formula memorized. So let's just work out an example. So the first thing we're going to want to do is identify a, b, and c. So a is the coefficient in front of the x squared. B is the coefficient, and you need to include the minus sign in front of the x. And then c is the remaining constant. So once we've written these down, we can just plug them into the quadratic formula. So x equals negative, and what I recommend is always putting parentheses around your numbers. So we'll say negative b plus or minus the square root of b, so negative 3, squared minus 4a c all over 2a. And before I solve this, I just want to talk about this plus or minus real quick. So over here, I'm just going to write a kind of a simpler example. So let's say we have 2 plus or minus 1. The way that the plus or minus works is what you're doing is this is going to give you two solutions. Where the first one you will use plus, so 2 plus 1 equals 3. And the second one, you're going to use minus, so 2 minus 1 equals 1. So that's how that plus or minus works. So now what we want to do is just start going through the math and solving this out. First, I'm just going to erase this to make some room. So x equals, and so here the negative will go into the negative 3. So we're just going to have 3 left over. And then plus or minus the square root 3, or negative 3 squared is the same thing as negative 3 times negative 3. So the negatives will cancel out, and all we're going to be left with is 3 times 3, which is 9. And then the 1 doesn't matter, so what we're just left with is negative 4 times negative 4. And this is going to give us positive 16. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. And now the square root is going to be the square root of 9 plus 16, which is just 25. And that is equal to 5. And so I'm going to take this over here. So now we have x equals 3 plus or minus 5 divided by 2. And then what we talked about before, now we can spread out the plus and minus. So the first solution is going to be 3 plus 5 divided by 2. And the second solution is going to be 3 minus 5 divided by 2. So this first one will be x1 equals 8 divided by 2. The second one will be 3 minus 5 is negative 2 divided by 2. So then our final solutions are x1 equals 4 and x2 equals negative 1. The way that you can check your answer is like this. So what we got for x1 is that it was equal to 4. So the way we can check our answer is to plug in the 4 back into the original equation. So we'll plug it in for each place where we have an x. And then we can solve it out. So for this first term, we'll get just 16 minus 12 minus 4 equals 0. And this gives 16 minus 16 equals 0. So now 16 minus 16 is just 0. So as you can see, 0 is equal to 0. So this is correct. Now let's check our other solution. So x2 is equal to negative 1. And we'll check it with the same approach. We're going to plug negative 1 in to x. And then we'll solve. So this first one is just negative 1 squared, which is 1. And then negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Minus 4 equals 0. So this gives 1 plus 3 is 4. Minus 4 equals 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. So we have satisfied both sides of the equation. So our answer is correct.